What's up, everybody? This is Dan French. This is the French Workbench podcast here on Tuesday. We're starting a little early today, and we got a full crew here today in studio. And I'm going to go right across the room. Guys, thank you so much. Please hit that like button if you like the content. We're going to keep putting out great content for you. Subscribe to the channel if you also like the content, and comment in the comment section. If you guys have any questions during and throughout the show, please leave us some comments. We'll answer those questions. Thank you for coming back on. So you came out about 2 months ago. Yeah. And you're with the Nevada Water Authority, right?
And
yeah, Southern Nevada.
Southern Nevada Water Authority. You know, we're out here talking about water conservation. It continues to be extremely important for everybody that lives in this community. You know, a couple things to think about, you know, because I know a lot of what you talk about here is real estate, and a lot of your listeners are interested, you know, in kind of what's going on the markets. You know, one thing just to keep in mind is that water conservation is what allows our economy to grow. It allows our economy to flourish. We cannot have an economy without a reliable water supply. And in order for us to maintain that reliable water supply, we have to conserve. In 2002, Southern Nevada used more than its 300,000 acre-foot allocation. So we used more water than we were allowed to use.
And there was less population.
And there was less population at that time.
Less than half.
That's right. So since that time, since 2002, we've cut our water use by about 23%, yet our population has grown by about 800,000 people. Wow. So if you've done anything in this valley since 2002, if you've purchased a home, if you've expanded your business, if you have a child that has graduated from college and is starting a new career, if you've started a family, if you've done anything pretty much in Southern Nevada since 2002, you've been able to do it because of water conservation. And it's important that we continue to pay that forward for future generations, for future years. So make sure you follow the seasonal watering restrictions. Right now, we're in winter. Yeah. Change your watering clock to water only 1 day a week. If you don't change your watering clock to 1 day a week, you're going to get a fine. Any water we return to the surface of Lake Mead, we can take another gallon of that water out from deep within the lake, bring it into the valley after going through the drinking water treatment process. The only way we consume water from Lake Mead, which you see behind me, the only way we consume water from that lake is either through irrigation, that's watering those plants in our landscapes, water in the trees, or through evaporative cooling. And those are our large high-rise buildings that use evaporative cooling for air conditioning. So those are really the two ways that we consume water. Everything else gets reclaimed and put back into Lake Mead safely, and that's why conservation is really easy. Focus on your outdoor water use, water only 1 day a week right now.
You see this picture behind us. Do you see the regression of the water that you see on this picture? This is maybe a recent. Now
that's bathtub ring.
Yeah. So my parents had a pool. I mean, not a pool. They had a boat, and they do have a pool too.
Same thing.
But they had a boat, and they sold the boat, right? And I think a lot of people are thinking, well, should I sell my boat? Is there really going to be an opportunity to go out to Lake Mead, because it's looking slim out there? I mean, this doesn't look good. And is this going to actually recover anytime soon?
Lake Mead is about 250 square miles. So there is still a ton of water. There is still a ton of recreational opportunities that are out there. We are going to still see flows come into Lake Mead. I mean, unless you're going to tell me that it is going to stop snowing in the Colorado Rockies for 2 or 3 years in a row, then there wouldn't be any runoff. So there's going to continue to be flow coming into Lake Powell, coming into Lake Mead. So if you are someone who likes to continue to recreate out at the lake, hold on to your boat. Keep going out there. Keep wakeboarding. Just be more mindful, because there's a lot more exposed surfaces and lower water levels to be mindful of.
You got all these people that are going to one specific area. They're all lined up. There used to be multiple places you can launch that boat, and now there's it's narrowed down to one. Yep. And so now you're looking at it, well, and water's still there, but is it going to be a problem, and how long will it take if we did recover? Because it's taken us a really quick time to take this water away, it seems like. Maybe the last few years that we 20. So, but in the last 2 years, did we see a real big reduction in this water here at Lake Mead?
Well, a lot of it depends on how much water gets released out of Lake Powell. And actually, we've had some pretty large releases from Lake Powell down to Lake Mead. See, on an average, you get about 8.23 million acre feet of water released from Lake Powell down to Lake Mead every single year. We've had some years where there's been as much as 9 million acre-feet that's been released. It all depends on what the level of Lake Mead is in relation to the level of Lake Powell. So if you are a boater, if you are in southern Nevada, if you don't want to wait in line at Lake Mead, you also have the options of Lake Havasu and you have the option of Lake Mojave.
So who makes that decision at Lake Powell? Like, let's say
the Bureau of Reclamation, and that is based on a series of agreements and entitlements. Right? And there's old agreements, but there's new agreements layered on top of it. That's right. But it all depends on what the level of Powell is, based on what the level of Mead is, that determines how much water gets released. The water that is in Lake Powell, that is the water for the upper basin. That's Wyoming, that's Utah, that's Colorado, and that's New Mexico. And they have an obligation in order to release water down to the lower basin, Arizona, California, Nevada, and the country of Mexico. Yeah. And so they do that from Lake Powell down to Lake Mead.
Don't you think it's a crisis position, though, with Lake Mead? I mean, I don't feel like we're going to lose all the water, but I feel
it's only a crisis if you say it's a crisis.
Yeah, I feel like it is. I mean, I feel that the amount of water that's regressing back, inward. You got a lot of people out there that, like I said, that are worried about that situation. Why wouldn't they just say, well, we have a ton of water here at Lake Powell. I don't know if they do or not because I don't know the research on that. But
there's not a lot.
There's not a lot. So what happens if Lake Powell dries up? Are we done in the water?
So again, you're talking about the fact that there is going to be no snow in the Colorado Rockies. We've had some dry years. We've had some dry years, no doubt about it. The soils within the Colorado Rockies are very dry. So when there is snow, a lot of that water before it runs off into the river system gets soaked into those soils. If you talk to the climatologists, who are much smarter than I am, they'll tell you that there are going to be years where we're going to see excessive flooding. We're going to see high snowpack, but we're going to see a warmer and drier future, an aridification, if you will, of the desert Southwest. Now, it's a crisis if we don't have any other options. But here in southern Nevada, we have options. Look at how much grass there is in this valley that nobody ever walks on. That's the stuff that is sucking up our water. Do you realize that a square foot of grass uses 10 feet of water to survive in our community? 10 feet. That's an NBA basketball hoop.
Wow.
Okay. If we can exchange that grass for drip irrigated landscaping, that's about 2.5 feet of water. So the water we use indoors, we recycle. If we can reduce that outdoor water use, get rid of that non-functional, useless grass, that's huge water savings. About 10% of our water supply goes to grass that nobody ever walks on.
Yeah, I've got some clients who just took out a whole bunch of grass, and they're just waiting for a check.
Yeah.
$3 a square foot.
Yeah.
Like, you look at the situation, though, with this whole water thing. So a lot of people are thinking, well, there's the unknown secret. And I don't know if this is true. We've had other people come on and talk about that there's water underneath the Las Vegas Strip.
Yeah,
now,
there is.
And there is. And they recycle that water, and that's why the casinos will not have any issues, potentially, with having a water supply. Do you know anything about that?
Well, the vast majority of the water that the casinos use is Colorado River water. That's water that gets delivered by the Las Vegas Valley Water District that is treated by the Southern Nevada Water Authority that is withdrawn from Lake Mead. But the majority of their water use is indoors. We could turn on every shower and every faucet and every hotel room on the Las Vegas Strip, and all of that water you're right, it'll loop back around, gets returned back to Lake Mead safely where we can take it out and use it again. We do have an aquifer system here within the valley. We have water that is stored within the aquifer for our community's future use. You have private well users that have groundwater rights, and they use that groundwater for their own personal use. A lot of the hotels do have wells, and they use the wells. For instance, the Wynn has a well, and they use that to irrigate the golf course at the Wynn. The Bellagio has a well. They use that for the water that's in the fountain.
It's all internal where
it's not necessarily recycled. When you're pulling water up out of the groundwater system, the only way it's going back in is one of two ways: either precipitation, where it's percolating back down through the system, or some kind of an artificial recharge. And we do artificial recharge. We will take Colorado River water, treat it to drinking water standards, inject it into the aquifer, and then it's there for our future use.
Are we going to run out of water, right? And you got a lot of people moving here. And I know the big question is where is the water supply at now? And where do you see the water supply heading in the near future for Las Vegas?
We get 300,000 acre-feet of water out of the Colorado River. We get the smallest slice of the Colorado River pie. Our allocation is going to be reduced from 300,000 to 279 next year because there is a declared water shortage. Last year, our water use was about 256,000 acre-feet. So we're still not using our full allocation of Colorado River water. We're going to continue to advance water conservation. AB 356, which was legislation that was just passed, requires that commercial and non-residential properties take out their grass, replace it with drip irrigated landscaping. That's going to save 10% of our water supply. So we're going to continue to see water savings that's going to occur over the years to come. That is water that can be used by residents that are here now, residents that may come in the future. If I was to go around this table and ask each of you when you moved here, I should just say, raise your hand if you're a native Las Vegan. Exactly.
Nobody.
So everybody has come here from somewhere else. And it's because of this community and the economy that and the opportunity that this economy provides to everybody that brings people to this community here. And as long as we continue to use water wisely, we're going to be okay.
I read an article, I think it was today. It was about new golf courses, and new golf courses are not allowed to use any water from the Colorado River. There's like a new mandate, which you
are up on your current events.
I stay current, you know.
I mean,
I joke around, but I'm on top of it. And then, but then I thought, well, what water would they use?
So right now, the Las Vegas Valley Water District Board of Directors today approved prohibition of any new golf courses built within the Las Vegas Valley Water District service area. So that's City of Las Vegas and unincorporated Clark County. Any new golf courses that are built are not going to be permitted to use Colorado River water. They would have to use groundwater.
If they have it.
If they have it. If
Right.
they have the water rights to use it. And so
Interesting.
that's kind of a stretch as to whether or not they would do that. Existing golf courses can remain.
So another question. The Badlands golf course, like with all that litigation, where what happened was some developers bought the golf course and they wanted to develop it, but then they let it go bad, and then they've been fighting with the city of Las Vegas. So my question is, I just thought of it. If that golf course is already there, but it's been out of business, would they be able to use water, or would they be grandfathered in? And so then those developers would win. The city would win from the back door. Does that make sense?
I'd have to check specifically as to whether or not they gave up any of their
water,
any of their rights on their meters.
Yeah, but
that's now the
something
developers wanted to build houses.
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
They did not want to build a golf course. The existing homeowners around the golf course want to keep the golf course because that's what they bought into.
Yeah.
When
so maybe
purchased,
maybe the developers will win from this.
It hasn't been a golf course for years. They stopped operating it. That's part of the problem. That's why the developers wanted to build on it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Huh,
and the most recent golf course built in Las Vegas that I'm aware of is Summit out in Summerlin, which is probably one of the most, if not the most exclusive golf course in the valley.
Hey, so let me just ask you some questions about like what this would mean for like future homeowners or even current homeowners. Like, so I know that there's this thing about having to get rid of the useless grass, basically, as they've called it. So that includes all existing grass, yes? So like anyone who has a front lawn still is going to have to get rid of their grass? Or what does that mean exactly?
It really doesn't apply to residential. So single family residential, if you've got grass in your front yard, I can tell you right now, unless you're out there picnicking on it and your kids are using it, you got useless grass in your front yard.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
So but that becomes a homeowner decision. And still, $3 a square foot. We want to incentivize homeowners to take out that grass, replace it with drip irrigated landscaping.
Okay.
Really, AB 356 applies to commercial properties. So the shopping center, the bank, the dentist office that has grass around it. It also applies to or multifamily residential properties.
Okay.
There'll be some limits there. They'll be able to still have some grass within multifamily because obviously you have people that are living there that could benefit from using some recreational grass. HOAs.
Recreational grass?
Yeah, that's the whole intent, right? Recreational grass. HOAs that have grass at their entry points or grass along their streetscapes. I mean, Summerlin is one where there's a lot of grass along streetscapes.
Yeah.
Southern Highlands, a lot of grass along streetscapes. Those are the ones that are going to have to change that out to
Change it
drip
up.
irrigated
Because
landscape.
I've definitely seen a couple of plazas already. There's one at like Lake Mead and Rock Springs I saw, and they're replacing, like, they're putting fake grass on, like, I think what they used to have, maybe something else there, but I saw them putting them up just this past weekend. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of that.
And it's funny because if you're driving by at 35, 45 miles an hour, it's kind of hard to tell real grass from
Oh
the
yeah,
fake grass,
I can only
right?
tell because there's cement and you could see them laying it on as I was